You know how it is when a job site gets a new foreman? The old guy, maybe he was nice enough. He'd let you take a longer lunch, didn't yell too much when things ran late, and always had a clipboard full of paperwork that never seemed to get anywhere. But the job didn't get done. The framing would sit there half-finished for weeks because he was waiting on a permit, or he was busy holding a meeting about how we all felt about the schedule. Nice guy. Useless. Then the new guy walks on. He doesn't care if you like him. He doesn't care about your feelings or the process or the way things have been done for 20 years. He walks in, looks at the mess, and says, "You, move that pile. You, get up there and hammer." Anyone who doesn't like it can pick up their check and hit the road. And suddenly the building goes up. It's loud, it's chaotic, but by God, you're pouring concrete by Friday. That's what January 2026 feels like. I've been listening to the radio while driving the truck between sites, hearing the talking heads scream about the end of the world. They're panicking because the old rulebook just got tossed into the fire. They keep talking about diplomatic norms and multilateral institutions. It sounds like fancy talk for stalling. But for guys like me, guys who actually have to deliver results to get paid, what's happening over in Davos and Abu Dhabi right now doesn't look like the end of the world. It looks like management finally showed up. It started with this whole board of peace thing. The news anchors act like it's some kind of kingdom, calling Donald Trump the chairman for life, like it's a bad thing. But look at the alternative. We had the United Nations for decades. What did they do? They sat around in fancy rooms, listening to translations of speeches that went on for 3 hours, and passed resolutions that nobody read and nobody followed. It was a homeowners association for the planet that never fixed the potholes. Now suddenly, you've got this board. It's not a debating club. It's a boardroom. Trump set it up like a company. You want a seat at the table? It costs $1 billion. Cash. Up front. The media went nuts. Pay to play, they screamed. But in the real world, if you want to be a partner in a deal, you have to put skin in the game. If you aren't willing to put your money down, why should anyone listen to your opinion? And that money isn't just vanishing. They're saying it's for rebuilding Gaza. Not with tents, but with actual skyscrapers and seaports. Jared Kushner was showing slides of it. Skyscrapers in a war zone. It sounds crazy, but it's the kind of crazy that actually builds things. You get countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE throwing their chips in, putting $1 billion on the table, and suddenly they aren't just talking about peace. They're investing in it. When you own a piece of the building, you don't want to see it burn down. That's just common sense. But the part that really got the job site talking was what happened with Canada. Now, I don't have anything against Canadians. Nice folks. But their Prime Minister, Mark Carney, decided he was going to stand up in Davos and lecture everybody. He gave this speech about the rupture, talking about how the world is getting mean and how middle powers need to band together. He was whining about tariffs being used as leverage. It's the classic move of the guy who brings a knife to a gunfight and then complains that guns are unfair. Trump didn't even hesitate. He didn't issue a statement of concern. He just rescinded their invitation, pulled the chair right out from under them. The letter basically said, if you aren't grateful for the fact that we keep you safe and keep your economy alive, you can stay out in the cold. And let's be honest, he's right. We've been carrying the weight for the whole continent for a long time. We pay for the defense, we buy the goods, we patrol the oceans, and in return, we get lectured. Trump telling Carney that Canada lives because of the United States might sound harsh, but it's the truth. You don't bite the hand that feeds you and then expect a seat at the dinner table. So now Canada is out, frozen out, and the trade deals are coming up for review. They're talking about 25% tariffs on cars. That's going to hurt them a lot more than it hurts us. Carney is up there in Quebec talking about how Canada thrives because we are Canadian. But pride doesn't pay the bills when your biggest customer locks the door. It's a wake-up call. You're either on the team, contributing and showing some respect, or you're on your own. Then you look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. For years, we heard that we had to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. What does that even mean? It means a forever war. It means endless money, endless dying, and no plan to actually finish the job. It's like a contractor who gets paid by the hour. He has no incentive to ever finish the house. But look at today, January 23rd. While the Europeans are running around trying to form committees, Trump sent his guys Kushner and Steve Witkoff straight to Moscow. They sat down with Putin for 4 hours. Then they flew directly to Abu Dhabi to meet with the Ukrainians and the Russians in the same room. Think about that. For years, people said you couldn't talk to Putin. Well, guess what? You don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with the guys who are shooting at you. And you don't do it by sending polite letters. You do it by getting in a room and putting the leverage on the table. They're calling it the Anchorage Formula. It sounds like a real estate deal. Russia wants the land? Okay, we talk about the land. Ukraine wants security? Okay, we talk about guarantees. But the first step is practical. They're working on this energy ceasefire. Russia stops bombing the power grid, and Ukraine stops blowing up Russian oil refineries. It's a trade, a straight-up trade. You stop hitting me here, I stop hitting you there. It's not poetry. It's not justice in some abstract sense, but it stops the bleeding. Witkoff said they're close to a breakthrough. That's more progress in 48 hours than the UN made in 4 years. Why? Because the guys running the show now, Trump, the board, they treat it like a transaction. Everyone has a price. Everyone has a bottom line. Find it, sign the deal, and move on. Of course, Europe is losing its mind. Specifically, the ones who liked the old Foreman, Macron in France and von der Leyen at the EU. They see what's happening, and they're terrified. They're calling for strategic autonomy, which is just a fancy way of saying they want to take their ball and go home because they aren't the captains anymore. They're trying to get a group together to resist the Board of Peace, talking about being vassals to Washington. But look who's breaking ranks. Hungary, Turkey, even guys like the UAE. They signed up immediately. They paid their $1 billion. They know that the power has shifted. They'd rather be inside the tent with the guy calling the shots than outside in the rain with Macron talking about European values. The Europeans are threatening to use this thing called the anti-coercion instrument. They call it a trade bazooka. They say if Trump puts tariffs on them over this Greenland dispute, they're going to sanction American companies. It sounds tough, but it feels desperate. It's the last gasp of the old management trying to pretend they still have the keys to the office. But the locks have already been changed. Greenland is a whole other thing. Trump has wanted to buy it for years, and everyone laughed. But now, with Canada sidelined and Europe fracturing, it doesn't seem so funny. It seems like a strategic play. If you control the north, you control the shipping lanes, you control the resources. It's looking at a map and seeing the future, not just looking at a poll and seeing next week. The thing is, a lot of people I know, the guys I work with, we're tired of being told that America has to be the polite doormat of the world. We're tired of paying for everyone else's defense while they tax our goods and look down their noses at us. We're tired of wars that never end. So when we see Trump setting up a board where he has veto power, where he picks his successor, where things move fast, it doesn't scare us. It looks like strength. It looks like someone is finally driving the bus. Is it messy? Sure. Is it aggressive? Absolutely. But have you ever seen a clean construction site? If it's clean, it means nobody's working. This Board of Peace is basically saying, we're done with the committees. We're done with the paralysis. We're going to run the world like a business. If you want protection, you pay. If you want peace, you negotiate. If you want to be an enemy, you get crushed. It's harsh, maybe, but it's honest. I think about my grandfather sometimes. He fought in a war where the objective was clear: win. Somewhere along the line, we lost that. We started thinking the objective was to be liked. You can't eat liked. You can't heat your house with liked. This new setup, this transatlantic rupture, they talk about in the papers, it's just the clearing of the dead wood. Carney and his middle powers can have their meetings and feel morally superior. Meanwhile, the guys in Abu Dhabi are actually stopping the missiles. The guys on the board are pouring concrete in Gaza. The world is moving on. I was at the supply house this morning, waiting for a load of lumber. The TV in the corner was playing coverage of the Trilateral Summit. You could see the body language. The Russians looked serious. The Ukrainians looked tired but focused. And the Americans, Kushner and his crew, they looked like they owned the place. They weren't pleading. They weren't apologizing. They were directing traffic. One of the other contractors, an older guy who's seen it all, nodded at the screen. He said, "About time someone told them how it is." And that's the feeling. It's not that we think Trump is perfect, but there's a relief in seeing clarity. There's a relief in seeing the United States act like the heavyweight champion again, instead of the referee who's afraid to blow the whistle. The critics say this destroys the international order. But what did that order ever do for me? It shipped my factory job overseas. It made my gas prices go up. It told me I was wrong for wanting my country to come first. If that order is collapsing, let it collapse. The new order is simple. Pay your bills. Respect the boss. Get the job done. I look at the timeline of the last 3 days. January 20th, Carney gives his speech. January 21st, Trump arrives and tells him the truth. January 22nd, Canada is out. The charter is signed. January 23rd, they're making peace deals in the desert. 3 days. In the old system, it took 3 days just to agree on the lunch menu. This speed, this velocity, it's American. It's how we built the Empire State Building in a year. Somewhere along the way, we got bogged down in paperwork. We forgot that we're the ones who make things happen. So, yeah, the news is freaking out. The diplomats are crying into their champagne in Geneva. But out here, where the rubber meets the road, we're just checking our watches and getting back to work. The new foreman is a hard ass, and he might fire you if you look at him wrong. But the structure is going up. The lights are staying on, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like the guy in charge actually wants to win. The sun is going down now. I'm heading home. The radio is still buzzing with reports about the anti-coercion instrument. I turn it down. I don't need to hear the panic of people who have never built anything in their lives. I look out the window at the highway, the power lines, the towns rolling by. It's a tough world. It's a mean world. But it's our world again.